Throughout the 12-year history of this show, you and I have gone to many car shows and have experienced a ridiculous amount of concept cars. Granted, over the past year or so, you and I haven't gone to a one auto show, but we have experienced concept cars. Auto show or not, very few of them turn into real production cars that you and I get to drive on the road. And I can't think of one as of this shoot that turned into an anniversary edition of the concept car that turned into a real production car. But that's what you and I are staring at now. And on top of that, they're only going to make 1,250 globally. Aside from this being a Boxster, just what the hell is this thing? Well, the folks at Porsche, they call it the Boxster 25 Jahre, translated to you and I. That is the Boxster 25-year. And yes, it's an anniversary car, but there's some confusion as to what anniversary they're looking to celebrate. You see, the original Boxster came out in 1996, 25 years ago, for the 1997 model year. However, this car pays homage to the original concept car that was debuted at the 1993 Detroit Auto Show. That car was GT Silver Metallic with a Bordeaux red interior, and I will let you guess what combination this one is. That brings us to a rather important question. What current Boxster did they elect to base this 25-year model on? Now, they could have went with a 4-cylinder, but thankfully they chose the GTS 4-liter. And here, let's take a stroll down memory lane. The original 1997 model year car had a 2.5-liter flat six that was also naturally aspirated like this 4-liter. However, that one output figures were a bit different, 201 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. This one is a tad bit better, 394 horsepower, 309 pound-feet of torque. Then there's the transmissions. Back in the day, one could have a 5-speed manual or a 5-speed Tiptronic. That means a torque converter. This one can be had with a manual transmission, 6 speeds, which this one has, thankfully, or a 7-speed dual-clutch PDK. Then there are the performance figures. Back in the day, the original car was very respectable, circa 1997, 6.7 seconds to 60. This one, slightly better at 4.3 to 60 with a manual transmission, 3.7 with the PDK. VMAX for this car, 182 miles an hour. Being anniversaries are special events, we should dispense with the usual from Germany and go with something lightweight, 3,157 pounds, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 1,432 kilograms. Now, something rather prudent to point out, considering the occasion, that is just under 400 pounds, 399 to be exact, more than the original Boxster back in the day. With that. Oh yes, thanks be to whatever German God decided to bless this package with the GTS 4-liter, because this, we've learned in many episodes, this is about the best combination of Boxster or Cayman with the 4-liter. And here I would go so far as to saying the non-GT, like the non-Spider, is better in the Boxster than in the GTS version of the Cayman. And here, I'm gonna go and step out of my bounds of Porsche a little bit. Yeah, we were lucky to get the manual transmission in this car, but it highlights something. The car that I literally had to trade to get this thing was the BMW M4 non-competition with its manual transmission. And yeah, I like that with the manual transmission, but back into this, literally back to back. This, what a difference in transmissions. Not that that one was bad, it's just this one, it's tighter ratios, there's shorter throws, it's easier to use, really more productive to use in this kind of tool on this kind of road. But enough with the comparison to the BMW, let's get back to the business of this being a Porsche, and in particular a GTS on the 718 platform. So that means a bit of a recap. Struts all the way around. In this one, you have to understand with GTSs, they come with the PASM suspension fitted as standard. That means a lower ride height of about 10 millimeters. But this one is fitted with the optional PASM Sport which lowers the ride height 20 millimeters. And you wouldn't think that makes a huge difference, but now we've driven, what, 5 or 6 of these things? And it really does make a lovely difference because it makes the car, it was already good control in these things over all planes of motion. There just is virtually no pitch when it's fitted with the PASM Sport. Then there's the steering here. Of course, it's going to be direct. Really good feedback and really good weighting, something unusual when it comes to the 718 series, especially considering this is not one of the GT cars, because like the GT4 and the Spider, that is about perfection when it comes to weighting. But then again, that whole front end, we've determined in previous episodes, is about a $13,000 delta. I think it's worth it. But here, I'm going to go so far as to saying the GTS version is better in the Boxster than it is in the Cayman, because the personality of the vehicle fits better to this engine and more, I don't know if I'd call it leisurely front suspension, but more apt to this kind of duty, meaning canyon roads. The GT4 and the Spider, those are more capable in track environments. And then there's the whole occasion of this anniversary and a very obvious question. Is there a size difference between this and the original Boxster? Answer being yes, but it's not as much as you think. Yeah, there's that 400-pound weight differential, but it's really 2.5 inches where that 400-pound weight differential is coming from. And that's in the overall length of the vehicle. However, if we drill down just a bit further, we see that 2.5 inches comes from the usable part of the size of the vehicle, and that would be the wheelbase. Now, I can't do my usual and tell you that's where you package a lot of people and a lot of dogs, because what are you going to package here? 2 people, or 1 person and 1 dog, or me and Kumo? And that's where that 2.5 inches is in the wheelbase. And I have to say, over the years, it's made this thing significantly more usable in this area here, where I'd say it's downright comfortable. This one, with all the stuff in it, very luxurious. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game, Mind the Absence game, with today's contestant, arguably one of the prettiest Porsches you and I have ever experienced. And yes, I am saying that about a silver Porsche. This one, the 2021 Porsche 718 Boxster 25 years. No, they do not call this a GTS, and they do not call it a 4-liter, but they do charge you a base price of $98,600. And for the avoidance of doubt, that's about 10 grand more than the base price of a GTS 4-liter Boxster. Now, they do make some changes here, and no, you can't make some changes from those changes. For example, it only comes on offer in GT Silver Metallic, only comes with the Bordeaux Red interior, and only comes with the stunning 20-inch, they call these neodyme wheels. That neodyme trim, that's like the gold trim. It's on the wheels, it's on the front of the car, and absolutely changes the look of the vehicle. You can see how it pays homage to the original concept car, but I have to say it works incredibly well in the 718 body, especially with the air intakes on the side of the vehicle. Then we press on to some changes that they do make, and this is more stuff that's fitted as standard. So it's not just 10 grand for like badging that's on the door sills. It's 10 grand and it includes 14-way seats. That's something that will be optional on a regular 718 or even a GTS. And that brings us to another item pre-selected by the color and trim folks at Porsche, the roof. Now, in many previous episodes where you and I are discussing convertibles, I always beat you up about selecting the right color of the roof to contrast the overall color of the car. And here, the red Roadster top, which usually they charge you an arm and a leg for. This is part of the 25-year package and absolutely makes the GT Silver come off the page, and I am not a fan of silver. And here, it's not just the color of the roof. They put some detail in there, which I'm a total sucker of. On either side of the roof, where the roof meets the A-pillar, they put 25-year just right in front of the windshield. You can see it when the roof is up, and you can see it when the roof is down. Now, there are some options fitted to this car, like, for example, the PASM Sport. That lowers the ride height to 20 mils lower than a regular 718. This car comes standard as 10 mils lower, and it's crazy cheap. It's only $290. Obviously, someone's been listening to this game and me complaining about the prices. Then power steering plus, no, this is not power steering. This is an additional tune to your power steering to make it lighter driving it in a parking lot. That also is crazy cheap at $280. Then the Porsche entry and drive in here, they got to get us for the keyless entry. Be able to put the key in your pocket, go up to the car, open the door, get in the car, start the car. That is $800. I guess not crazy expensive. Then the ventilated seats. That's on top of the standard 14-way seat. That's $940. Then the Bose stereo, no, sadly not the Burmester, although that should come fitted to standard in the 25 Euro, $990. And the only other thing we add here is the destination and handling von Zuffenhausen, $1,350, for a total retail price of $1,250 they will make globally. This car here is a German market car, and if you look really closely on the dash, they put the number in the build sequence. This one, I don't know if it counts because it's 000. I don't know if it's the first one or if it's just one that's not going to be sold. Either way, it's $103,050. So you and I need to have a conversation about, yes, this car, but I would argue more the overall 718 market. Now, what was it? A couple of years ago, you and I first started driving this 718, and it was good. It delivered plenty of power, and in some cases it was downright fast, and it was built on arguably a platform of perfection. How can one argue with the engine in the center of the car? In some cases, it was more rewarding to drive than a 992. However, to me, there was something always missing. Yeah, there was the sound. I have told you, yeah, it definitely sounds like a Subaru, which I do not like. And then they came out with a 4-liter flat six, about a year ago. You and I have driven many of them at this point, and it's one of my favorite Porsches. I've gone so far as to saying the GT4 without options is probably the best Porsche value out there. But then I've noticed in the years since these things have come out, meaning the 4-liter and the 718, there's been a dramatic uptick in the sales of overall 718s. So Kumo and I, we called Porsche. We spoke to our buddy over there. I'm like, hey, can you break out the numbers by engine? And they said, sadly, we cannot. But even without the actual data, having driven the cars, I can tell you without a doubt that that uptick is 100% in the 6-cylinder market. Now, one could say, but the car's $100,000. The one you're in is over $100,000. I can get a fully loaded Corvette for $15,000 less. And the answer to that is absolutely yes. But there I'm going to give you a weird analogy. Have you ever gone into a fancy steakhouse and you've ordered a filet, which is not offensive to anyone? A filet will always give you a nice, perfect cut of meat. However, to the real connoisseur, the kind of person that's buying steaks or cars by the ounce, they're looking for the head chef to have a relationship with the right butcher that gets the right bone-in cut and knows how to prepare that exact bone-in cut. And you'd always choose that, rare of course, over the filet. That's what this car is, the properly prepared, correct choice of bone-in meat in the 718 Boxster or Cayman world. I would go so far as to saying this is the only way to have a 718. It always needed the 6-cylinder, and yes, that's my story, and I'm absolutely sticking to it. So it's admission time. I am a complete sucker for this thing, and yes, normally I'm the GT car guy, and for my money, I would still buy a Spider, but this, in the car world, they call this eyeball. When you see this thing in person, it is magnificent, which brings us to the wish list here. I got nothing because it's such a unique looking car, and this is proof that color and trim can drastically change a car. But you know what? I am gonna put one thing on the wish list. How about we do an anniversary edition that involves the Spider? This is good, but the Spider would be better. And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, it is my fiduciary responsibility to share some bad news with you. By the time you guys see this, all of those 1,250 units that are going to make globally of this vehicle will have been spoken for, which leaves you with one of two options. Number one, you could buy a Spider for maybe a little bit less than this, like I've been telling you all along, or a GT4. Or you could participate in a very special auction of this very car right here, because Kumo and I, we're not giving this one back to Porsche. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.